Hey guys, so today I'm going to be showing you how to make Mankoushat Saj, and this recipe was requested by my good friend Sarah, so shout out to her. And the dough for this is super easy. I have here 3 cups of flour, and I'm just going to add a tablespoon of sugar. So the original recipe has simple syrup, but I just want to make this as easy as possible. So just a tablespoon of sugar and then about 2 teaspoons of salt. Just eyeball it. And then we're gonna have 1 cup of water. This is hot water. And a tablespoon of water. Don't laugh at this tablespoon. You have to add it. It makes a big difference because this dough has to have a specific level of moisture, so please add that tablespoon in. And another important part about this dough is that it has to knead for a really long time. It has to be super stretchy, and it can't have any rips and tears. So I knead this for about 10 minutes, and then every now and then I'll just feel it and then see if it needs any more water, any more flour. But usually this is like a foolproof recipe. So I'm gonna knead this for about 10 minutes and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes and I just want you to see how soft this dough is. Now all we need to do after the 10 minutes is done is add about 1 tablespoon of oil just to pull it all together at the end. And then mix it until the oil is combined, and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so this is how the dough looks like after 10 minutes. And as you can see, it's super soft, super supple, no tears. And now I'm just gonna divide this into 12 equal pieces. Last time I did this, I did them into 8, and I thought that was a little too big. So we're just gonna make them into 12, I mean. So cut them into thirds and then cut these thirds in half. And then in half again, and you will have your 6 pieces. And if you feel like one is bigger than the other, just take some from one and add it to the other. You really don't have to be too precise here. You don't have to go grab your scale or anything, just eye it out, shape it into balls, and put it into this flour lined pan, and I'm going to show you what to do afterwards. Okay, so I just want to show you how I make them into little balls. So I flatten it out first, and then you just want to do this. I don't know what it's called, you can just see, and I'm kind of like cupping it with my 2 fingers and pushing the excess inside, so you're just going to have a little seam. And there you go. Okay, so I finished rolling these out, and now I'm just gonna cover them and let them rest for 30 minutes to an hour. Okay, so a saj is basically this rounded stone that is heated under fire. We usually use it back home, and that's what we use to cook our breads over. But right here, we're gonna make our own pretend saj. We're gonna make our bougie version of it. So I have a really hard duty cast iron pan that's very rounded from the bottom, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start my stove and I'm gonna place it upside down. So you really need a pan that's very rounded for this to work. You can't use like a flat pan. And also keep in mind that the size of your pan is going to reflect the size of the dough and how small you cut them. But like I said before, 12 pieces seemed to do the job nicely. So first, obviously, we're going to need our zayt and zataar. So this is like a staple Middle Eastern side that we use. Sorry, the camera's kind of wiggly. So since the saj that we're using is rounded, we don't want our mixture to be very oily, or else all the oil is going to fall down and you're just going to have a huge mess. So just put enough in the oil so that you have sort of like a paste. You don't want it to be too runny, so just add a little as you go. See, like this is way too runny. So just keep adding until it's more paste-like. Okay, so this is my zeytin za'atar. As you can see, the texture, the consistency, it's very paste-like, and we're not gonna add a lot just because, like I said, the saj that we have is very doughy. Okay, so I'm gonna start rolling out my first piece of dough. I have my pan preheating to medium heat. You don't want it too hot because this is not gonna be super thin, so we just don't want it to burn before it cooks. So what I do first is I start rolling it out, make it into a circle, start it off with a rolling pin, and then what I do is take a little bit of olive oil. You always want to have this on hand. Wet your fingers and just start spreading it with the olive oil. And with this type of dough, you just want to have some patience. You don't want to be ripping and tearing into this. You want to be very gentle, and then you can also pick it up and then just start with your hands. You know, with this type of dough, all you need is just a little TLC, tender love and care. Don't be impatient. Okay, about a teaspoon, and you can just with your hands, right? And then you grab it, and then you put it on your pan. Right? Now this pan is gonna be super hot, so please don't burn your fingers. And you're just gonna wait for it to have a little bit of bubbles. And then just grab a spatula and start scraping off the sides. See how fast and quickly it's gonna be done? Okay. This is how they're gonna look. Okay, so as you can see, we already have a few done, and I'm just gonna take you through the process of how I do it. So you want to start off by getting it into a circular motions, and then you always want olive oil on hand. Okay, so you're just gonna dip in your fingers, and we are gonna spread this out using olive oil. So olive oil will be your best friend here. You really don't wanna be rough with this. Try to be as gentle as you can. This dough is very forgiving. A heaping teaspoon of our za'atar paste, and we're gonna use our hands for this, okay? Clean hands are a chef's best friend in the kitchen. Take your fingers and you start rubbing it, and as you rub it, you will also spread out the dough a little bit more. So see how it's not very runny? If I hold it out like this, none of the oil is gonna spill, and that's very important because if you have oil on this pan and it burns, your whole house is gonna be smelling like burnt oil, so we don't want that. So just an even distribution like that, and then you're gonna take it and put it, as you put it, also spread it out. So just like that in the middle, and just keep an eye out for it. It's gonna start having some beautiful bubbles, and you should be able to, this side right here should be golden brown. When that side gets golden brown, then you know it's done. And you can already see all the bubbles that are starting to form. Let me show them to you right now. So a very, very beautiful sight. You could see all these bubbles starting to form. Look at how thin the dough is. And just keep an eye out for it. Okay, let's check on it. Needs a little bit more. This is such a fun recipe. All you're gonna want to do is play with it, move it around, and it's really, really cool knowing that you can still make all these things that you would normally find back home, finding creative ways how to make it here. So if you have this type of pan, it's gonna be perfect, preferably having it cast iron. And actually, if you don't have this, they do buy electric Saj makers on Amazon. You just have to type in a Saj grill. Just type that on Amazon and you can find it. But if you have a cast iron pan like this, it's gonna be great. So let's check on it again. Okay, and that looks perfect. So just take it, and if you're having a hard time maneuvering it, you can just take 2 spatulas, and there it is. Okay, so here's our final product. It's thin, crispy, but at the same time very pliable. You can stuff these with labana, you can stuff these with cheese and roll them up, make them into a sandwich. And I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this recipe. I know a lot of us make them in the oven, but I love this new method I found of just doing them on top of a pan, mimicking the Saj. So let me know if you guys like this recipe down below, and maybe drop some ideas for new recipes that you would like to see.